Lowriders, Eric? Eric, Lowriders.
All my friends know the lowrider.
Let's ride into another episode here on Matt Goes to the Movies. We are once again in the MGTTM extended podcast universe for a spin-off show we call Rob's Reviews. As you can tell from the title of this episode, you clicked on it. We are talking about the film Gone in 60 Seconds, released in June of 2000. The film is directed by Dominic Sena and produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, and the film stars Nicolas Cage, Angelina Jolie, Giovanni Ribisi, Robert Duvall, Christopher Eccleston, Delroy Lindo, and Timothy Olyphant. This movie is one of the best examples of a film that critics trashed, and it did not win any awards of any sort, but yet was thoroughly enjoyed by audiences and is well remembered by most. Rotten Tomatoes currently has the film at 25% critically, with an audience score of 77%. This is sort of the reverse of a film we somehow always find a way to work into conversation here at Matt Goes to the Movies, with The Last Jedi maintaining a critical score of 91% and an audience score of 42%. See, Matt, see, Harrison, I worked in a Last Jedi reference in my opening. We didn't even have to get into the show, and I've already got a Last Jedi reference in, so go me. That's probably the earliest we've been able to get one in. But trust me, I would much rather rewatch Gone in 60 Seconds than The Last Jedi any day. This film was a ton of fun to watch the first time I saw it and remains the same each time I've revisited over the years. So to help me break down why the critics don't know what they're talking about when it comes to this movie, I've invited on someone to help me do it. The Giovanni Ribisi to my Nicolas Cage, the Geo Metro to my GT500. Please welcome back to the show my brother Eric, who is kind enough to set his bourbon down on his birthday. Today, as we're recording this, is actually his birthday, and he was kind enough to set the bourbon glass down for a second long enough to talk about Gone in 60 Seconds with us. So, Eric, welcome back to the show.
It really only gets set down for brief moments, and then it gets picked back up again. So
it just gets picked right back up. So, Eric, we've had a chance, here on the extended podcast universe to talk about some films that have really meant a lot to us over the years, things that have really kind of stuck with us. For listeners and subscribers of Matt Goes to the Movie, certainly, Fight Club is one of the top downloaded shows on the channel. It's something that we're incredibly humbled by and very grateful. So thank you for checking that out. We've also had a chance to talk about Goodfellas. We've had a chance to talk about The Big Lebowski. Big time films that people definitely recognize and know. Films that have made a lot of money. But now we're going to talk about Gone in 60 Seconds, which isn't exactly as big a name of a film as some of these other ones. So we're going to move into a segment called Teaser Trailer. And here on Matt Goes to the Movies, Teaser Trailer is a segment where we're going to talk spoiler free. So if you have downloaded this episode with the hopes of trying to figure out whether or not you should actually check it out, we're going to talk about it spoiler free. So Eric, if you were talking to somebody who's listening right now, who's never seen this movie, what would you tell them about it to entice them to watch it? Why should they see this movie?
it's Nicolas Cage, first of all. And it's are you ready? Are you ready? It's a heist, but it's the best kind because it's not just one heist. They have to steal 50 cars in 3 days. So sweet. And great cast. They're not all A+ list type names, but you'll recognize just about everybody. They've all played some type of supporting role in big titles that you've seen. And they all do a good enough job that their characters are believable. They play off each other really well. It works. It's entertaining. I mean, it's a heavily produced Jerry Bruckheimer thing. It's entertainment. This is like classic late 90s, early 2000s type action movie. It's just pure Hollywood, and it's great.
It's hard to disagree with anything you just said. This is Nicolas Cage, maybe at his Nicolas Cageiest. This is Jerry Bruckheimer at his Bruckheimerist. It's fun. don't try to make sense of it. Like, there's definitely things about this that if you think about it too long, you go, hey, wait a minute, but just please don't do that. Like, this movie is only designed for pure fun and nothing else. And does it deliver on that? Absolutely. This movie delivers on fun. Just sit down, enjoy it, throw it in your DVD player, because it's not currently streaming anywhere that I was able to find. So, is this something worth buying? Sure. This is definitely something worth owning in your DVD library or Blu-ray library. Revisit it time and time again, because it's just really a lot of fun. It's a little bit of a time capsule, to the late 90s, early 2000s, when a lot of movies kind of looked and felt like this. And you get 50 heists, not just one heist. You get 50 of them. And one of the most absurd plots you can think of that's still somehow grounded in reality. So
50 heists. I can hardly contain myself.
So previous listeners to the extended podcast universe will remember that the heist film is something that Eric said he's professed a deep love for and calls it his favorite genre. So, I knew for sure when we were talking about this that obviously, of course, I know how much you love this movie, but certainly that was going to be a big reason why. That you have a fondness for it. So, Eric, we're going to move into the next segment. We're going to still be mostly spoiler free for this film. A lot of people didn't realize, and I'm not even positive I remembered that this was a remake until we started getting ready to do this. But there was a film called Gone in 60 Seconds that has some similarities to it. That is actually out there. It was done in the early 70s, I believe. And you had a chance to check it out. So why don't you go ahead and tell listeners a little bit about it? Does it hold up? Is it worth seeing? Where can you stream it? And is there any similarities or anything that rewatching the 2000 version of the film you gained a new appreciation for? What can you tell us about the original?
So it's 1976, and you'd expect some more really sweet, like hot rod muscle cars. Not that really not that many. This honestly, first of all, you can stream it. At least when I watched it a couple weeks back, it was free to stream on the Tubi app. That's TUBI. I can't say I recommend doing it though. I mean, it didn't hold my attention. Like some of my best highlights that I wrote down. I mean, the difference is there's 48 cards instead of 50. They sort of had a hero streak about them. They were only stealing cars that were insured, and that had nothing to do with as much as like locating them as it was that they didn't want to like steal from people who couldn't have it replaced. Because the main character actually was an insurance adjuster. There were some other similarities, like the one guy stole a car full of drugs and the police show up. It was also a Cadillac Eldorado. But they also had code names as women. The one supporting character was also named Atlee. It's just not very good. It moves slowly. The focus on the heists is basically nil, which maybe that's why I'm sort of prejudiced against it. But the pinnacle of the film is the final chase, which, I guess it maybe should be, but there's a lot of sidewalk driving, a lot of damage. There was some off-roading in muscle cars, which is kind of cool. It looks like they use the same helicopters that they use in MASH, which I liked. There were a lot of cars that were just absolutely totaled. There was so much damage, which I guess was probably the coolest part. But it was really kind of hokey. Like the dude wrecks the car that he's stealing, the Eleanor. And there just happened to be another one at the car wash that he rolls up to, and he steals that, and that's how it ends. Like there's no resolution, and it wasn't good. I can't say I recommend watching it. The remake is just not even. It's not even apples and oranges. It's apples and houseflies. Not even close to a comparison.
So basically, what you're saying is the time I didn't spend finding this movie and watching it was probably well spent.
I will never get that 137 minutes back.
So I kind of feel like, again, once, we're talking about a movie that's an adaptation or based on something else here. With Goodfellas, it's an adaptation of Wise Guy, which was a book that I read prior to it, and I actually really enjoyed it. I guess as a follow up to that, there was another book that came out that Henry Hill wrote with a different ghostwriter, and it's called Gangsters and Goodfellas. And I actually read that after we recorded our episode, and it kind of trails his life in witness protection. And I guess just as a real quick follow up to that episode, the guy is such a scumbag, and it's unbelievable that he's so revered because of Ray Liotta. So I definitely recommend checking it out, because I enjoyed both books, the first original one and the one that kind of follows him up after that. But then for our last episode on The Big Lebowski, I watched the spinoff movie called Jesus Rolls. And it sounds like that, and it was terrible, and I definitely can't recommend it. But I think maybe your view of the 76 version of this movie was probably more enjoyable than even that, because I struggle to find a reason anybody should watch Jesus Rolls.
Honestly, so it was really more entertaining reading some of the backstory of it than the movie itself, which we can get to with some of the behind the scenes stuff, because it is there's some noteworthy.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to move ahead right now, actually, into some behind the scenes details. And one of the ones that I found really fascinating was about Nicolas Cage and the amount of his own driving that he did. He actually did almost all of his own driving. The only ones that he didn't do are any of the jumps and the nitro high speed scenes, because there's really no reason. I mean, the camera's pulled way back. It doesn't benefit you to put your marquee guy, the guy on the poster, the first name on the poster that's getting people convinced to come see it. Like, it doesn't benefit you making a movie to put him in those, because you can't even see him anyways. But outside of that, almost everything else he did. And he actually trained and prepared at several stunt driving schools all around the country. He went in and around a lot of them to try to get ready for this, which I thought was pretty cool, because car driving can be pretty dangerous. It can go from bad to worse really fast. And simple little things can happen at any moment and can create a pretty serious catastrophe if not done properly. So it was a big risk on the part of the studio. And I think the film is better for it. So I want to talk about Eleanor, obviously one of the biggest non-human characters in the movie, kind of the holy grail, the unicorn they call her, the GT500. The look of Eleanor was actually designed by a guy named Chip Foose. Now, if you're wondering in your head, Chip Foose, that name sounds familiar. Who's that? He had a show on TV called Overhaulin' for a while. A really cool guy. I watched a lot of that show back when it was on, and it was pretty enjoyable. The guy definitely loves cars, loves designing cars, loves hot rodding cars and souping up cars and things like that. They actually made multiple fiberglass body kits. So they didn't use real GT500s. They used other model Mustangs for the guts of the car, and they placed these fiberglass body kits over it. Now, I read multiple things that were kind of conflicting. I heard there were 7 of them, and 5 of them were trashed, with Nicolas Cage and Jerry Bruckheimer keeping the final 2. I've seen that there were 5 that were left, and that Bruckheimer got a car, but it was like a specialty one that was never really intended for the film. So I've definitely seen some conflicting details on this, but definitely anytime you are doing a car movie, you're going to trash some cars. And it kind of like, it hurts my heart to think about how many Mustangs got destroyed in the process of this movie.
Yeah. Well, and that's the bummer too. When I was looking some stuff up, they were talking about how, like, there's been several that people have claimed, like at auction or private sale, that, this was the actual GT500, Eleanor from Gone in 60 Seconds, used in filming, blah, blah, blah. I touched a car that claimed to be as such right next to a sign that says, "Please do not touch," when we were in Las Vegas. And this would have been, no.
Yeah, so it was like mid 2000s.
Yeah, it was a while ago, but they had there was a car museum, right? So we went and I saw it, and now I feel like maybe I didn't actually touch Eleanor, and I've been lying all these years.
Yeah, so here's the thing that I've also seen in some of my research. There's actually some back and forth and some legal battles about being able to market something as a Gone in 60 Seconds Eleanor car with the family. I want to say it's the estate of the original filmmaker. Yeah, it's the widow of
H.B.
the
Halicki.
76 film.
Denise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her name's Denise. So she actually produced the 2000 version. And HB was killed during filming the sequel to the original one in 1989 during a stunt. But she ended up really kind of being a obstinate person about the whole property, the intellectual property of Eleanor. There was a ton of litigation and preventing people from like marketing the, build. Like you can't even really build a GT500 to look like that or use the name Eleanor in reference to a Mustang without her attorneys knocking on your door, sending you cease and desist letters. Which is really a shame because that's like not at all what like the car people and car community is about. There's a lot of real bad tastes in people's mouths with her behavior after the fact.
Yeah, intellectual property is one of those things that's kind of tough, and sometimes like when you hear big companies going after little people for borrowing their intellectual property or something like that. I've actually heard Bruce Buffer talk about this in different interviews because he manages his brother Michael Buffer's career, and he's got that famous phrase that he says before boxing matches, and he gets called out to do NFL games and stuff like that. Bruce Buffer has trademarked "It's time." Michael Buffer has "Let's get ready to rumble." And the problem is if those to them, and this is the problem you run into with intellectual property, if you use those phrases. And if you don't have the right to that intellectual property and you use it, and if the copyright holder becomes aware of it and chooses not to do anything about it, then the courts can determine that you are not protecting your copyright, and you can actually lose your copyright. So there's a lot of times people get really up in arms sometimes about this big person or this big company going after a little guy or a little person or something like that. And without really understanding why they kind of have to. But the whole thing, like as I was I was kind of reading some of the same stories I think you were. It's just sad that there wasn't anything that was able to be kind of worked out, because I want to say it was some of I think it was the original Shelby team, the people that are still part of that team that were actually building those. So that, it's kind of a bummer they weren't able to kind of make their own car, I guess. But yeah, it's just sticky, and it's one of those things you wish didn't happen.
The joke's on her because everybody knows that after she became a widow, after HB died heroically in the middle of a stunt, which is nuts. But she started dating her third cousin, who is no other than Rob Kardashian, who was known for being part of the legal team defending O.J. Simpson in his criminal trial. So anytime we can throw some salt on the Kardashian family, I'm happy to do that. And also this woman who seems to be kind of a wicked witch of the West. So yeah, there's a little bit of incest there.
It is gross. So keeping with the car itself, the GT500 was not the original car that the producers wanted for Eleanor. They actually wanted to go with a Ford GT40, which was, Ford made it a long time ago. They made a new version of it somewhat recently. I think they just called it the GT, and it was like a legit supercar that could go up against the Italian supercars, from Lamborghini and Ferrari, with the blue Ford oval right on the front of it. However, the production budget just was simply not going to allow for it. For cars that are in the $200,000 to $400,000 price point, that's a little bit harder to slide into budget. So they stuck with
you need like 7 of them.
Yeah, so they stuck with the GT500. There was definitely some things that happened that made it to film that were not intended to as part of the stunt work. So if you think about the scene where Sphinx is driving the Hummer and he ends up pushing the cop over the edge, that actually wasn't how that scene was supposed to go. The actor got a little bit of whiskey throttle and ended up pushing the stunt team kind of off the edge, but the stunt driver ended up being okay, and it worked for the film. So that's actually kept in there. another crash that wasn't supposed to happen. Delroy Lindo was not supposed to crash his BMW into the back of the police car that ends up getting destroyed in the construction yard during the final chase. It just kind of happened. And honestly, it's one of those things, like, it's not really anybody's fault. These things happen on a film set when you're doing car chases, especially when you're doing a car chase movie. Like, that's not really anybody's fault. These things are expected to. Talking about the cars, the one at the end of the movie that Giovanni Ribisi's character gives Nicolas Cage's character, it was the one that's a total junker, was actually the nicest car of any of the cars they used for Eleanor. The crew actually removed many of the body pieces and replaced them with really junky looking ones. They also spread dirt across the interior, really trying to give it like that barn find look. But actually was a perfectly fine car. It was like a brand new motor and everything in it, I think, that they that they just basically took everything apart to make it look like junk, which I find that funny. The last behind the scenes one that I've got, the Vincent Thomas Bridge, which is the bridge at the tail end of the movie, right before he goes to make the jump, was closed to traffic for the first and the only time that I'm aware of that I could find to make this film. Any other time that films have used this particular bridge in LA, they've not been able to close it to the public, but it was closed to the public for this particular film. Eric, do you have any other behind the scenes details that I did not hit?
I think, just some of the comparisons with the original and of course the juicy Hollywood gossip about the widow of the original director, but that's it.
Cool. So let's talk about the cars a little bit more. There are 50 cars. Some of them are incredibly exotic. Some of them are a little more pedestrian and fairly easy to find. They all have girls' names, and they explain in the movie why that is. So Eric, you've got the list. If you had to pick your favorite cars from that list, now I'm just going to go ahead and say right out of the gate, you can't pick the GT500. That's the obvious one. Of course, everybody would pick that. Like, you can't choose. I know. So that's the obvious one everybody would want. So which of the cars off that list really jumped out to you that you're like, oh wow, like that one?
All right. So I've been a sucker for a Corvette just as badly as I'm a sucker for a heist movie. Especially the Stingray. The 53 Chevy Corvette is Pamela. I'm not a fan of the earliest ones. That's the C1. It's kind of flat. Honestly, it reminds me of a Thunderbird, so it doesn't stick out to me. But 67 Stingray, Stacy is the name in the film. That's a mean vet because that was the big block. If you see one of these and they've got the side pipes coming out of the motor straight from the headers, boy, does it sound nice. It's a sweet looking car. I really do prefer the into the 70s, the C3 body style on those Stingrays because it's really curvy. But that's probably my first just because it's a vet and that's my favorite. But I really liked and I've never seen this in my life, but what is it? Kate, it's a 71 Di Tommaso Pantera. I don't know if I'm saying that first part right, but it's kind of sweet looking. It looks like a video game version of a Lamborghini, like, you know, how they would pretend to make a Lamborghini. Pretty sweet vehicle. I really like the Jag. What is it? The 220, the XJ 220. It looks awesome. It's like one of the flattest cars I've ever seen. And it kind of reminds me of like a bullet. I mean, it just looks like a rifle bullet. The Cuda,
so you're talking about Bernardine, the 94
Bernardine.
Jag. Yeah, Bernardine.
Yes.
So quick thing on that, because I actually had that on my list. The producers wanted a McLaren F1 because that's like the supercar of supercars. I mean, before the Bugatti Veyron, you know, went from 0 to 60. Oh, it's already done. The McLaren F1 was like, the supercar.
What was it, like 3 seconds, sub 3 second 60 time? I mean, it was so fast.
Yeah, I mean, it was like one of those mythical things that like was talked about in hushed whispers by people, like when they talk about it, it's just like, oh, you can talk about your Lamborghinis all you want, but the McLaren F1, it's like it flies. It has
It's like
wings.
a
It
fighter
has
jet.
jet engines.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, was how people talked about it. But much like we had talked about with the swap from the GT40 to the GT500, there just wasn't. They couldn't actually find anybody that would let them borrow a McLaren F1 because they didn't make that many of them. And when you've got
Wasn't that
one,
a center drive too? Like it's like not even street legal. Like it was like a cockpit.
I think it was like a 3-seater where there was like you actually sat in the middle and the passenger sat on either side of you. I think. Yeah, it would have been wild if they could have had that in there. But turns out not a lot of people who have those were willing to let producers use those in a car heist movie. I can't imagine why.
Right.
After we just got done talking about how many things they trashed.
They smashed it, yeah. So I really do like the muscle cars, though, just to finish up. Shannon is the 71 Plymouth Cuda. Anything with a Hemi is great. The Jessica's the 69 Plymouth Roadrunner, really sweet. That's a sweet car. And then Sharon, the Pontiac, the 65 GTO. I don't typically care for like a boxier car, but there's just something about that GTO that style. It just looks mean. It looks like a muscle car, and you can just see some giant like flamethrower pipes coming out of the back of that thing, and just listening to it rip through town. Like that's just one of those cars. So sweet. But those are my favorites.
So if you ever get a chance to look at the list, it's pretty easy to find. You can Google it. I'm fairly certain Wikipedia's entry on this movie has the complete list of cars. And it's really all over the place. So you have like, a 2000 Cadillac Eldorado in there. And then you also have like a 99 Bentley. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be like 99 and 2000 kind of cars. There's a Ford F350 on there. There's a stretch limo. I mean, it's just all over the place.
It's a Rolls,
the
though.
list.
That limo is a Rolls.
Yeah. There's a GMC Yukon on here, but then there's also a Ford T-Bird from 56. Like this is just all over the place. And it's just kind of fun because if you're a person who appreciates cars, I think some people like have a lane, they like 70s US muscle cars, or they like Italian imports, or they like German cars or whatever. Some people kind of have their lane, but I think most people are just, they can appreciate a wide range of high performance vehicles. For me, I definitely had notated Bernadine, that Jag XJ220 you mentioned. I would 100%. I went with Denise as my favorite, the 1998 Dodge Viper Coupe GTS. The Viper has always been my favorite car. You've always been a Vet guy. I've always been a Viper guy. I could not fit in a Viper because I'm just under 6'7", so it's unlikely I would fit in almost any of these cars that aren't the trucks. So it's like a total pipe dream for me to think about ever sitting in any of these vehicles, especially the Aston Martins and the Bentleys from the 50s and 60s on here. Like I would never fit in any of these.
Porsches are really small inside too.
Oh God, yeah, it'd be awful. But I still I love the unrefined, fire-breathing nature that Dodge put with their V10 when they made the Vipers in the 90s and in the 2000s. I'm not always a big fan of the boxier look of the Italian supercars from the 80s and 90s, but I'll tell you, Rose, the 1987 Ferrari Testarossa. There's just something really unique about that car that I particularly liked. You had mentioned Shannon, the 1971 Plymouth Hemi Cuda. There's just something badass about those 70s muscle cars, it's something, there's something about it. So, but yeah, listeners, definitely check out that list, go through it when you get a chance, and then do a Google image search, like open a second tab in your browser and just do Google image searches on each one of them. And it's just really a lot of fun to kind of go through the list. And then imagine trying to steal all of them. So, we're going to move into our next segment called Seat to Screen. And we're going to talk about what works about this movie and what doesn't. Eric, where do you want to start? What kind of works for you about this movie?
Some of like the more over the top things, like you have to make a lot of assumptions for this. And again, film's all about the suspension of disbelief. Okay. So if you go into a movie expecting to be hypercritical and picking out all kind of continuity errors and just implausible things, then you're not going to be, I don't know what movie you're ever going to really like, to be honest, but you just need to allow yourself to be entertained. I I really love all of the, like, they do a lot of really quick, like, boom, boom, this is what they're doing. Like, they're taking a headlight unit out, like a housing out, and getting in and popping the hood like that. And then, like, they really only, like, hot wire, like, old school, like, screwdriver across the solenoid, hot wire a car, like, once. Like, that's, like, the only time they show that. But just all the cool little tools and tricks and stuff that they do. It is really entertaining, and just, I mean, seeing them drive, and loading them up in the cargo containers and stuff is pretty cool. The team itself, they're dynamic. Everybody kind of has their role, and they have their sort of tropey, character styles that they fall into, and they play off each other. It is really, all of that works. I have to say, Delroy Lindo, I don't know that this dude ever really gets the respect he deserves. He plays Detective Castlebeck.
Why does this guy not get more work? Every time I've seen this movie, I turn it off thinking, why does Delroy Lindo not get more work? Every time I watch this movie, I think that.
Like, everything I've ever seen him in, everything, it seems like, just comes so easily for him. Like, he's very nonchalant and casual about whatever character he is, and he just does a great job. Like, he's extremely believable. So as a detective in this, he definitely, it works. Tim Oliphant, really early role for him. He looks super young too. After me, like, most recently seeing him in Justified on FX, that series, which is awesome, by the way. But it really does, like, the entertainment portion of things, the Hollywood hyped up entertainment part. It works. It works really, really well. What doesn't work, and it's kind of it's almost cliche, for movies of this era especially, but just like some of the forced, like, dramatic scenes, it's very Jerry Bruckheimer-y. It's like, freaking Armageddon, where they're, like, forcing, like, the romance story down your throat. Like, it's kind of like, meh, like, I guess they're throwing a bone to all the wives that had to go see this in the theaters with their husbands, like, it just didn't, I don't know. I don't care for it most of the time whenever it's not organic, and a lot of it wasn't, for, like, the drama in this just wasn't quite there for me.
So there's a lot to like about this movie in terms of just pure fun. So I want to talk about some specific things, and it'll touch on some of what you just talked about too. I absolutely love the intro. By the way, for anybody who thinks that the song is called Bring Sally Up, it's actually called Flower, song by Moby. I love the intro to this movie. It just really gets you going for what you're about to see. You mentioned Timothy Oliphant. I kind of forgot that he was in this movie, but I always remember, like, his character was really written more. It was almost like a bit part or a smaller role. And yet somehow you remember him, you remember his lines, you just remember more about him, I think, than maybe what his character was originally written to do. And it's, I think, a credit to him. The first scene, I think he and Delroy Lindo work phenomenal together. And I think one of the best examples of that is when the two of them first meet up with Randall on the street, and they're having that conversation. And it's so good. Like, they play off each other so well. I love it. I love the phone call scene where they're starting to recruit the crew back. It's great. Once they've decided they're going to do this and they got to put the crew back together. I love that scene. And then when he first runs into his competitor, and Sphinx just starts one-shotting like 6 dudes, just bang, 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 just knocking them dead.
Drops that Johnny B dude. And it starts off so cool too, because he's like, when he first sees Sphinx,
he says nothing and just lights it.
Get away from my car, asshole! And then he just blows it up.
Yep. And then proceeds to walk forward, not giving a single damn about anything at all. Just one-shotting guys left and right. It's one of the most badass intros to a character. I mean, it's not his actual intro, he's awesome. But, like, the first time we see him in action, it's fantastic. There's little scenes too that are just really good to me. So when Memphis is playing the pretentious douche canoe at the Ferrari dealership, Oh my God, that scene is so much fun. Like it's great.
Yeah.
Um,
That's fun because he says he just copies the guy's name. Like that's a really good grifter tactic. Is
oh
if
yeah.
you need to remember somebody's name, just make your name that name too. And the guy's name is Roger, and he's like, oh, two Rogers don't make a right. Like it's really good. It's a con man thing. It
Well, I'll tell you what kind of makes me interested. So you see all the things they do to track the vehicles down, the way they get their information, the way they actually drive, the way they steal, the way they heist. Man, I would have loved to have seen like this crew in action when they were really doing this all the time. And I have a question for you, Eric. And almost every time I've seen this movie, I'm mystified how this has never been made into a game. How do we not have a true Gone in 60 Seconds video game? Because you think about how popular games like Grand Theft Auto are and how popular different aspects of Need for Speed are. They've done a lot of street racing. They've done a lot of like wrong side of the law kinds of things with Need for Speed. Could I interest you in a game based on this movie where you have to steal a whole bunch of cars? You probably have some races. You have some big set piece moments that you got to race through as you're doing this stuff. Does that sound like something you would buy? Because I'm day one on that. Like I'm gonna go wait in GameStop right now if they announce it.
Here's where I'm at with it because. And I had no idea you were going to ask me this, so now I feel like unprepared. But I'm still going to. I have my initial thought is no, just because the fun of the movie is the scouting part of it, like the pre-work, which honestly that is like a great segment in the film. Because they're all kind of like dicking around with each other. They're doing like car show and movie trivia over their radios and stuff. There's good light-hearted humor and stuff going on there. So that's fun. The scouting is
I actually
a big part
think
of it.
the scouting part, I actually really like that they do that auto trivia thing because it takes a part of the movie that's probably not really all that interesting to the viewer. It's the boring part because it's not the stealing and the driving part. It's the prep work part. It's the homework part. That's boring. Nobody wants to see that. And yet they somehow make that a really fun scene. And by doing like
because I always want to know, like, how do these people know all this crap? Like, how do they know how to find this? How do they get into this person's garage? So they do give you a good like foundation for some of the setup for the thefts, which is cool for me because I'm a nerd, I guess. And then like the actual stealing of the car, I mean, like, just how does that translate to a video game? Because like in GTA, stealing a car is just a button push, man. Like it's the same as pulling the trigger on the gun. Like it's so organic to the game. Like it's no different than sprinting. Like, oh, just gotta go take this guy's car, and off I go. And you don't think twice about it. I mean, over the life of a single title of GTA, you steal thousands of cars. You just never think about it. So it's not even, like it's not, and like if you're just going to make a racing game, then that's what racing games are for. That's what Gran Turismo is for. That's, so I don't know how you make the actual theft of the vehicle fun. If you're going to center that, like a game around that thing, I don't know how it would be fun because you can only do so many like lock picks. And then I feel like I'm playing a sneak archer thief in Skyrim. And there's only so many lock picks you can do. There's only so many little weird mini games, and that I don't want it to feel too much like Splinter Cell, where it's just all stealth. So I don't know. I would much rather see another movie, Gone in 60 Seconds. I would much rather see some kind of spin-off or sequel, maybe even a franchise like a show. I could tolerate them stealing a car every week. Man, come on, how cool would that be?
That would be kind of cool. Different. Yeah. Don't try to remake the movie as a show, but yeah, give us something else. Give us new characters, or even give us the characters like in their prime, recast it. I'd be into that for
like
sure.
Like an origin story. That would be cool.
Yeah. I would watch that. Netflix, make that happen. Some other things that I really like. And it's, when they rip up Johnny B's car with the wrecker, like it's such a cool scene that they outsmarted him in the way that they did, but it's so unlikely that they would not notice like him creeping around, hooking up their car and stuff like that.
Entire segment is gratuitous. That's all. That's a Jerry Bruckheimer, like Hollywood, thumbprint. Just like them rolling up on him. Like, come on, how do they know where he was? They were out scouting vehicles to steal. Like these are master thieves. They would have noticed if somebody was following them. And like these, boneheaded thugs are rolling up on them to, shoot up their car. And then they're running through alleys. And listen, that whole thing is extremely entertaining. But that's one of those times when I'm sitting there like, yeah, but it's a very cool Nick Cage line whenever they go into that little diner and, we can talk about that with the quotable thing, but it is fun. It is cool when he rips the whole axle out from underneath the car. But you're exactly right. They would have noticed.
They would have noticed, but that's the thing is this movie, it doesn't even begin to trade in the realm of what actually would and wouldn't work. It's really just a series of entertaining scenes and car chases mixed in, and I'm here for it. I got to say, the lighting and editing for the final chase through the factory, in terms of things that work, oh my goodness. I mean, for a movie about car chases, to have the final sort of chase be, the three of those guys, Calitri and Memphis and Delroy Lindo's character, the detective, for the three of those guys kind of all like chasing each other and things like that, for that to be almost not really the climax. I'd say the final car chase is the climax of the movie, but for that to work as well as it did, I really loved what they did specifically with the lighting and how that scene was edited. I thought it was so good.
Did you notice that all those pipes and boilers and the steam and all that stuff and the little catwalks and things? I don't expect you to have the same, I don't know, memory trigger, but boy, did that feel like the scene in Commando whenever John Matrix takes on the Australian dude.
It'll be hard for me to watch Bennett. This movie again and not think of that now. Yeah, Bennett. Yeah, where he tells him to let off some steam. Bennett.
Yeah. It just seemed like the same freaking set where they were just running through the same pipes and stuff. I was just like, my God, where's Arnold Schwarzenegger's giant arms in there?
Yeah, I would definitely love that. I love the scene when they're out waiting for the dog to do its business so they can get the keys back, and we get an early career appearance from Michael Pena. And if you haven't seen this movie in a while, definitely go check it out. If you're rewatching this, to go, hey, wait a second, is that? Yes, that is Michael Pena. We know him from his appearances with Ant-Man in the MCU. And I'll tell you, if we could get his character from Ant-Man to do a recap of this movie, like in a minute-long style, the way he does in Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp, I'm here for it. I would love it. I think that would be absolutely hysterical. I want to talk about the impound scene for a little bit when they are using the keys they just got to steal the Mercedes back out of the police impound. I just, it's so absurd and creative. Like, these guys are just throwing everything they can to try to make this work. They're pulling every trick in the book out. And I just find that whole scene hysterical.
I love the little black dude when they tell him he looks like a little ghetto Smurf. And then the fact that he is looking at Sphinx's character, Vinnie Jones, by the way, he's a large man. Okay. And he actually plays kind of a heavy hitter in a couple Guy Ritchie flicks that someday we're going to talk about.
Including Snatch
and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. But he's kind of an enforcer pretty much all the time. But this like 5.5 foot maybe dude is like constantly talking very aggressively to him, and he is well over 6'5". Like, he's a tall, big guy, and he doesn't talk, which makes him so much like creepier and tougher seeming. And he's like, man, I will knock the crap out you. That stuff is so funny. It works really well. There's plenty of good humor in this, which it helps.
So let's talk about Mirror Man for a little bit, because I find him to be equally humorous while also being a bit too much at the same time. And I don't know how to describe it, but even though I think he's a little bit too much, I still find him really funny. Does that make any sense at all?
No, actually, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, just checking. Because I don't know how to take him, because I think he's a little bit too over the top, but I still find him really funny. While we're on the subject of things that kind of work and don't work, can we talk about why there's a snake just randomly on the floor of the truck that they steal? Like, who keeps just a snake casually on the floor, not like contained in any meaningful way? Like, who does that?
And what was that, the Hummer?
Yeah.
That was the Hummer, and he's like, player got snake on the license plate, and it turns out that there's like a freaking python just chilling, and like, I mean, it's a kind of just a pointless Hollywood
It's a
trick.
Bruckheimerism.
Yeah, they just throw it in there to cause an extra layer of drama, as if it wasn't hard enough that they're trying to high speed a Hummer out of a parking garage. If you've ever been in one of those in anything larger than a Geo Metro, they're not the easiest.
You're terrified the whole time.
Yeah, they're not good places to drive. They really are. They're dangerous. They're tight. Everything seems super enclosed, and they're driving one of the largest street legal vehicles that's not a semi. And Bruckheimer's like, hey, let's throw a python in the mix. Why not? And so that's what they do, and it just causes them to do a lot of paint damage to that vehicle on their way out. I don't know if it was necessary, but like you said, it just, who does that? Who leaves a giant snake chilling in a Hummer in a park?
It seems like that wouldn't be a good idea for when you yourself, who own the vehicle and probably the snake, go to get in there. Like, I mean, I clip my dog in when I put him in the car. Like, I'm not leaving a snake just on the floor.
On the driver's seat when you get back. I mean, like a full-grown one of them, that's like 40-some pounds, right? Like, you're going to pick it up? Come on.
No, you're not going to pick it up. It's going to do whatever it wants to do because it's a snake, and that's what it does.
You're just going to say, well, I can't drive home, so I guess I'll just live here now.
Yeah. I want to talk about, in terms of things that really work, the whole approach to going to Eleanor, to me, is, I'm just going to call it masterful filmmaking. I know this film is not well reviewed critically, and I don't care. I think that this part of the movie is masterful filmmaking. It's the last car. It's dawn. The music they use is kind of ethereal. You've got some chanting in the background a little bit.
It's like Halo.
It's very much like Halo. Yeah, that's probably why I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And Sway drops him off, and he stops, and he turns around, and he gives her this sort of just this look. And the way that they light the car, I mean, you can picture this in your head, Eric. I know you can picture how the car is lit in the parking garage. It's so good. Like, that just from a technical filmmaking standpoint, that whole sequence to me is so good. And it's a shame that it doesn't get more appreciated than it does.
It was probably the most artistic part of the entire thing. Like that was, definitely that could be something that you would see in like a film studies type of class. Like, hey guys, this is how you make a scene. And because, he's like caressing the car, going with the metaphor of the car being a woman, and he's very gentle and loving and respectful at the same time. Like, he's not just going up there and grabbing it by the back bumper. It's.
I've been told that doesn't work.
There's a deference in and maybe it's a little bit of like over exaggerated, like he's afraid of it. It's a unicorn. It almost killed him a couple times, blah, blah, blah. That's like maybe just taking the drama up to 11 when it could have been a 6 or a 7, but it still works. That's a great scene. You're right. The choir type chanting and the ethereal kind of sound, it does create like a reverence to the entire thing, and it does make you respect the respect that he has for the car, and it definitely kind of brings you in a little bit more. It gets you kind of amped up, like, okay, here we go, it's about to start, like this is going to be the coolest part of the movie.
Because let's be honest, is there anything that happens in this movie that isn't predictable, that isn't kind of by the books, kind of cookie cutter? There's a lot of aspects of this movie that you could make that critique, that it doesn't do anything different. It doesn't really give us that many things we've never seen before. You can kind of figure out all the story beats fairly early into the movie. But it's still a fun ride the whole way. So I want to move on to some of the things that don't particularly work as well for me about this movie compared to some of the things that we talked about that we do like. And I kind of want to start towards the beginning when we first meet our villain, Kalitri. and he's really into wood furniture. Like he's really into it. It's kind of dumb. Like having him be like super into woodworking and he's making a coffin. Like that's a really weird hobby. And it just, I don't know. Like it just doesn't work.
He's kind of a creep about it. And like, if we're sitting here putting money on it, I'm betting he's got splinters in his pee-pee.
It could certainly be a possibility. It's creepy though. And then when at the end of the movie, when Memphis is swinging the chair around, like I don't know. To me, I think we're well past the point where he's worried about what happens to that.
He's
like
acting like it's his child.
It was weird.
It's a freaking chair. Yeah. Like I don't care if it's
just
the rarest wood ever. Like he's trying to avoid being caught in a crap business deal. And trying to exact his revenge on the guy who's
just ordered murder multiple times, and he's worried about the chair.
He's worried about it's just rocking weird chair.
Yeah,
but he is English, so I guess like it's probably I don't know. We won't hold it.
So at the beginning, then Memphis walks in and he's going to pay the $10,000 that he's already been fronted, and then he just kind of like throws it in the air and then walks out, and nobody stops to grab the $10,000. Like I immediately went, "Wait, what about the $10,000?"
Well, yeah, because even if
I don't know if you did that, but I was very concerned about that.
Even if you're a 100,000-aire,
right,
you're still going to be a little bit concerned with $10,000 in cash. Like that's not
fluttering through the air.
And they really don't care. They just let it go. And I would be picking it up. I don't care. I don't care what everybody says about me.
Like that's like fourth wall breaking to me. Like that's one of the moments where I know it's a movie, but it actually, it pulls me out of watching the movie because I go, what about the $10,000? There's 3 guys in the room and none of them are worried about the $10,000.
I'm looking down like where I'm sitting. Is there any floating down next to me that I can pick up? Come on.
Right. So, in terms of things that I think really don't work, some of the family dynamics are really not done well in this movie. There's a couple of them. I'll get to a few of them in a little bit, but I also want to spend some time in this segment talking about the relationship between Sway and Memphis. And we find out that at one time they were lovers and then they went their separate ways, although they still have something for each other when they first kind of get back to, talking to each other again. There's definitely still a spark there. There's still a flame. But then you find out that the reason they weren't together is Memphis decided he wanted to go straight. Sway wasn't ready to do that yet. And she didn't want to leave the life, even though he made a pretty clear case as to why she should. And then she does leave the life, kind of acknowledging that he was right, and they just never reconnect at that point. Like it just, I don't know. I don't think I'm explaining that very well, but there's aspects of that when you really stop to think about it, I don't know. They just really didn't kind of work for me. Eric, do you have any thoughts on that?
I thought they didn't have to have any kind of romance like that. That's not a plot device that's driving this film at all. Yeah. They could have done without that part of it. Like they could have just been really close friends and had the exact same conflict when he's trying to recruit her, because that's part of the predictability. Like, oh, this guy's going to talk to a blonde Angelina Jolie and she says no. Damn well that she's going to say yes in 10 minutes, like she's going to be there. So that's predictable, but like they didn't need to, and it's part of one of my skippable scenes, which we'll get to later, but I don't care for the forced romance in any movie. Like if it's real, it's not that I don't want romance in a movie. I mean, I could do without it, but if it's there and it makes sense, then good. It's part of the film, but like this didn't have to be there. It was forced. Again, this is one of your Jerry Bruckheimer-y things that they don't need to do, but they still do it. And they keep getting away with it because we keep paying money to see these movies.
Well, so I maybe don't find that as shoehorned as you do, because I actually enjoy when they have to park because they're waiting to take a Lambo and the lights come on and the actual owners of the Lambo are getting ready to lay some wood and they have to wait a little bit and they start kind of maybe mimicking what they're about to watch a little bit. There's parts of that scene that I sort of like. And
there's a couple lines that are good, but
there's some good lines in that we'll get to. Yeah.
It's Painted on My Heart by The Cult. It's a great song. But yeah, the scene itself, yeah.
I actually kind of like that scene, but I could see if you decided that you didn't really care for it, or didn't need it. Yeah, you can go without, I guess. One of the other things that I wish I had a little bit more clarity on is it seems like a lot of their plan is really predicated on the cars being at home in people's driveways when they need them to be. Like, nobody goes out to have a late dinner, like nobody goes out to the club, nobody's at a friend's house, like nobody goes out of town for the weekend. Like, I know they kind of do it at night.
The little black dude is like the valet. Like, he just knew to show
You got to
up
get
at that
pretty
point,
lucky.
like,
Yeah.
to valet this dude's car, and like the limo, like they're going to, like, they were stealing one at a casino. I think this was the other one. Like, there were some that was just like, how did you know?
Yeah, like if you needed to get my car and I've got it dropped off at my mechanic because I'm getting an oil change or an inspection done overnight, like, and you show up at my driveway and it's not there, it's like, and it really occurs to me that this movie wouldn't work in 2021 because everybody's Ring camera would catch you like walking up, and like the lights would kick on and stuff like that, especially people who have the kind of scratch to have, some of these super exotic cars, like they've got a Ring camera in 2021. So
wicked nosy neighbor is, sitting there watching through the window.
Yeah, for sure. So like I said, some of the family dynamics don't really work. We'll cover that more in a little bit. The CG on the car jump, I really wish it wasn't so bad. And I don't even know why it needs to be. Like,
it wasn't good.
You could have no, you don't need it to be, though. You could have shot that entire scene without having to do it in CG.
Practical effects. Yeah, they could have used practical effects. I mean,
and I'm not even saying you have to
talk to George Lucas, like, ever.
Right.
What the hell?
Well, you don't even have to jump the car the way they did. You can still jump the car, and you just show the car going through air. You don't necessarily have to show it hitting the
3 feet off the ground.
Yeah, and like then you just film the car landing.
Yeah,
you can do that.
Do like
you don't
12
need
or 13 different takes. There's so many different.
And you don't need to show the car touching the ambulance. Like, I have this critique a lot. Frequent listeners to Matt Goes to the Movies know that that's one of the things you've heard me talk about that I hate in movies is when bad CG ruins a scene because and I'm looking at you, Fast and the Furious franchise. Like, I'm looking right at you because when you're showing me a cartoon that is obviously a cartoon, there's no danger there. Like, I don't fear for the character. Fired. I don't have any investment in what's happening because it's clearly fake. And I know we're suspending disbelief. We know it's a movie. I'm sitting in my living room on my couch. I'm watching it on my TV. Yes, I know I'm watching a movie, but when you're showing me something that is so clearly a cartoon, it's fourth wall breaking to me, and it's unnecessary here. And I wish they would have done something different.
They had the power of family that was stronger than CGI, whereas they didn't quite have that here in Gone in 60 Seconds. So
no, because the family dynamics in this really don't work.
It sucked. Yeah.
The boat is still in the harbor at the end of this movie. In terms of other things that don't work, like 12 minutes late and the whole deal's off, like that whole part of it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, they haven't left. Like, you can load it. Like, 12 minutes is not going to make or break whether or not this still works. And then when they destroy the car, I don't know about you, Eric, but my heart breaks a little bit every time they destroy that car. Like, I
don't understand the point. I feel like he was just always going to be a dick about it, no matter what. Like, they could have perfected everything, and he still would have been a dick about something. But, he says, 50 cars, not 49 and a half, or 49 and a half. But it's really not in that bad a shape. It runs. And listen, if you are where they're sending them, like in Brazil or somewhere in Europe, either way.
He says South America. They don't get any more specific than that.
So if you're the type to be buying stolen cars off of a container ship, you're probably not going to care so much about the condition of said car once it gets to you.
Yeah, you probably have an expectation about what's going to happen.
He's like a wholesaler, right? Like, so he's shipping in bulk. He's sending 50 cars for a contract. So these are all coming from other various brokers, right? So at least one of those guys has to have some type of like mechanic connect, right? Like where they could fix that freaking car up. And obviously they're not the most scrupulous people in the world, so they're going to be slapping some Bondo on there and painting it with the DuPont Pepper Gray, which is the color of Eleanor, in case anybody wanted to know. And holding it together with some duct tape and whatever, and selling it to whoever for six figures. And then when they get pissed off because it's kind of beat up, what are you going to do? You're going to come after a master car thief boss in South America who probably keeps a machete next to him at night? No. So I don't know why any of this matters. I really don't.
Well, because here's the other thing too. Let's not forget the majority of these cars don't have the keys with them. So you need at least a mechanic to be able to.
Some of them had a screwdriver jammed in the ignition. That's like one of the easiest ways to steal a car, by the way. I've heard. Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah. But yeah, so there's only a few of these cars they actually had the keys to. So at a bare minimum, you're gonna need some work on the other end. All right, Eric, I think we've got a pretty good bit there for from seat to screen. We're gonna go ahead and move to the next segment called From the Lobby. And From the Lobby here at Matt Goes to the Movies is where we talk about our favorite scene and our least favorite scene, or scenes that you would skip. You would get up and refill your bourbon when that scene comes on. So Eric, go ahead and start us off with your favorite scene, because I bet it's probably the same one as mine, but go ahead. I'll let you go first.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to pick one. It really is. It is very difficult for me to ever just pick one favorite. Most of the time, I'm really good at picking one thing that I hate the most. I really honestly, I like very early in the movie when Nick Cage is talking to the little kids and doing go-karts. I think that's hilarious. I like that a lot. I do like anything where Scott Conn gets a couple lines because he's a goof. He plays a goof in every movie he's ever been in. He plays like a 5.5-foot dude with big hair and just is kind of dumb. And it works for him. So I like the scene when Castlebeck shows up at the garage and they're trying to, they stole that Cadillac it was full of drugs. That whole scene's pretty cool. But when Scott Conn was like, I was going to bonk him. And Nick Cage says, bonk. He says, bonk. Then he tells them all, your decision-making privileges have been removed. That was all very good. I think that if I was going to go with any one scene, that's probably close to it. So for favorites, I think that's probably.
So I'm kind of surprised you chose that. I expected you to pick the final car boost because that's mine. I already talked about my love for the lead up to that scene. And then there's some pretty good driving, some pretty good editing. Especially, I think my favorite part of that scene is when they get to the docks and there's the construction area and they're weaving in and out of that. And there's all that chaos going on. I adore that part of that scene.
I do. That's great. I like it whenever he's flying through the LA River.
Oh yeah.
And
he's gone.
Because that's not only is it awesome because he hits the button and says, go baby, go. Obviously that 67 happens to have NOS in it, but he refrains from saying NOS, which is cool. There's a cool line there when Tim Oliphant's talking about man, can that guy drive? And he's like, oh, it's probably just the car. Because what's his name? Delroy Lindo looks at him like, come on, dude. He's pissed, but that is cool. I don't know. I didn't want to pick the obvious one because obviously the pinnacle car chase, that's sweet. But I think there was some really good film elements and some good acting, and they created some good tension without being tropey and obvious about stuff in the one that I was talking about. So that's why I went with that.
Yeah. The opening scene where he's taking it so seriously, when he's talking to the kids, when he's talking about
speed is a
byproduct of all of these. Yeah. And he's so serious about it. And, I kind of enjoy that with all of these retired car thieves that they're in industries and things that are related to cars, but not what they used to do. It's their love for cars and their love for what they were doing and the skill sets they acquired, but they can't still be in that part of it. So they have these other things. I like that part. I think that's a lot of fun. So let's go to skippable scene or skippable scenes, worst scenes in general. I've kind of got two, and they're sort of variations of the same one. When Memphis and Kip are talking towards the beginning of the movie, and he's, accusing him of running out on his friends and things like that. The family dynamic in this. Yeah, it's right after that, and they're trying to reconcile, and it doesn't work at all. Like, it doesn't make sense. And it's really reinforced at the end when they're sitting at, I'm pretty sure it's a veterinarian office. There's the scene with Atlee and Kip where he said, Kip says to Atlee, "Go ahead then, straighten me out." The scene sucks. And honestly, this should have been a conversation that happened at the time the decision was made. Like, how do you imagine Memphis just going, "All right, guys, it's been fun, but deuces, I'm out, not stealing cars anymore"? Like, he doesn't do that. He pulls his crew in. He says, "Okay, people are getting shot."
Just leave. That doesn't happen.
You don't submit a 2-week notice from stealing cars. Like, it's like, "Hey, everybody, I got a better opportunity. I appreciate everything you've done. Let's stay in touch on LinkedIn.
Go-karts, and on the weekends I'll work at the putt shack that's right next door."
Yeah, if you need a recommendation in the future, please be sure to let me know. I'll clean my office out, and like, you don't
train
do
my
that.
replacement.
Like, right? Like, that's not how that works. Like, you sit everybody down and you say, "I'm leaving. People are getting shot. People are going to prison. I don't like what's happening. I want a better life for my family. Like, this just isn't for me anymore." Like, you have that conversation. So explain to me why it is that Atlee has to explain that to Kip when Memphis would have explained that to him when he said it. Like, he wouldn't have just walked away and left everybody high and dry. He would have said, like, "This is what's going on." And it appears as though that's what Kip took from that. And it's such lazy screenwriting. And frequent listeners of Matt Goes to the Movies know one of the other things besides crappy CG that annoys me is lazy screenwriting, where somebody just writes a piece of dialogue, writes a scene, just expects us, the audience, to just kind of go with it and not question anything or not have to actually justify it. You guys know I hate that stuff so bad.
Do you think it's possible that, because to me, I feel like almost like Kip was like not really even part of the crew. Like, he was just like a little turd who, hung around and like, tried to be involved, but wasn't really involved. So like, maybe he wasn't part of that conversation when the time came. He was the little brother. Like, he was kind of the cast off, and
maybe, but Memphis really still would have told him. Like I can't imagine he wouldn't have told him. And I can't imagine that he would have told him.
It's kind of a stretch. I don't know. I'm trying to defend it because sounds like we're talking a lot of crap on our,
Well, yeah, but that's the thing is, like, clearly Memphis was the crew leader. So when he leaves,
without a doubt,
and he's their best guy, like, obviously you need Otto, you need him, and you needed some of these other guys, but clearly Memphis is the most talented guy. He's the leader. He's the one that people take their marching orders from. When he ducks out, he closes up shop. Everybody else kind of has to do the same. Like, why would he not have like made it very clear, like, "Oh yeah, and like, none of you can work with my brother because this is why I'm getting out." Like, it bothers me. So
like
that's kind of my
went to play baseball, and he didn't tell everybody like, you can't play with Scottie Pippen.
Yeah. So that is my worst, least favorite scene, my skippable scene. Eric, do you have a different one?
Yeah, it's we touched on it earlier, but it's the stealing the Lambo sex scene within a sex scene. It's like maybe the only meta sex scene in the history of film. The song's cool, and there's a couple cool lines, like whenever he's talking about the pink underwear, and he's like, "Pink underwear works. Pink underwear works." And then they start getting into it, and then all of a sudden she realizes like they moved on, so it's time to steal the car, and she just pops off of them, and they're sitting there like talking. It's like they're sort of doing some like dirty talk, for you younger folks. People used to do what you call sexting. They actually used to do that in person. And they would say these things to each other and whisper them in their ears. So they're doing this, but they're like talking about like camshafts and, car stuff. And then she just completely bails on the entire moment because it's time to steal a car. And Nick Cage goes, good brakes too. And that's a really good line. And again, Painted on My Heart, The Cult, great song. I feel it's been a minute. I didn't note it, but I feel like they actually wrote this specifically for that. But don't quote me on it. If I'm right, quote me. But if I'm wrong, I didn't say that. But it is cool. But that's exactly the time whenever I would get up and take a leak. If I'm watching this and I can't pause it, I'm getting up because I already know what's happening and I don't care.
So good breaks too. It's a great line, and it's a great segue into our next segment called Notable and Quotable. And here on the Extended Podcast Universe, we're choosing films that have meant a lot to us over a long period of time. One of the things that in these iconic films that truly stands out, one of the things that makes a film truly iconic are the iconic lines, the best moments of these movies, the things that stick into your mind, the things that you find yourself saying to friends or relatives, the things that you search to find gifts for, to send back and forth, are some of these great lines. So I've got a couple here. Obviously, you picked a great one with the line about the brakes. That's a great one to start it with. I've got a couple here, and I'll see if you have anything different from me. I love the line, I rob from the rich and give to the needy. And brother, we need this car. That's a really good one I enjoy.
It's Donnie.
Yeah. Donnie's got another really good one. You don't know when he's getting carjacked after he just stole the car, and he tells the carjacker, "You don't know the first thing about stealing a car. You need a role model."
He's like scolding him.
Time.
He's scolding him and sort of trying to like pep talk him.
Yeah. They've got the guy that works at the dealership that they're kind of trying to get to roll a little bit, the detectives. And he says to them, I told you everything I know. I know that because I said, this is everything I know. It's just, again, it's one of those where they're intimidating.
He's a really good Weasley character too.
He's so good at it. I kind of had criticized this movie a little bit of saying it doesn't really show us anything different. We really don't see this. Like we see cops, trying to intimidate, somebody on parole or somebody to squeal. And we've seen movies like that before. We've seen where they say, "Oh, I don't know anything," and then they threaten something, and all of a sudden they know something, and they threaten again, and they say, "Oh, that's all the more I know," and they just take him at his word. Like we've seen that 147 million times. But I just kind of like this line. It's something a little bit different. Another Timothy Olyphant moment that I thought was really great. The scene that I talked about earlier that I love so much, this particular part of it where they're going through the construction site and the wrecking ball pushes the cop car through the brick wall.
That's a cool stunt.
And he's asking him
by itself. Really,
it's a great stunt. He says, "Are you okay? Are you sure? Because you just went through a wall."
And then he just moves along. He really,
just go.
Some of these quotes, some of these lines are so great because of like what happens immediately after, or like what happened right up to that line. Like, it's the dialogue. Yes, it's the line itself, but the context makes it so great. And that's one of those for sure. That's a great pick.
Yep. And the last one that I've got is to me, I think the most iconic line from this, and it's almost kind of a throwaway, but it's just when I think about this movie, it's the one that I think of over and over again. Eric, you already know what it is. The GT500.
The GT500.
The GT500.
Yeah. It's like he's looking for some kind of affirmation, but at the same time, like it's almost a question too. Like
and reverence, affirmation and reverence.
There's so many emotions in a simple like if you consider the word the, and then you consider GT500 as a word, two words, the GT500, like, and the fact that he says it twice, but he says it in such a different way the second time. There are layers of feelings to how he's saying it. It really does. It works so well. It's such a cool way. I mean, it's great job, Nick Cage. That's all I got to say for that one. Great job.
Oh, yeah. Nick Cage. Did you have anything under notable and quotable that I did not already mention? Anything different, Eric?
Oh, yeah. So early on, whenever they're stealing the Porsches, they drive out of the dealership straight out of the window, and he's like, I gotta get my tool, and he's like, I ain't a tool, that's a damn brick, like that's cool. And then they really set it up that these guys are like young and kind of hotheads, and they're also a little bit stupid and immature, but like they're sitting there. Scott Con's, again, he's a goof, man. He's just whipping a tennis ball off the wall, and he's talking about, so check out my new move, right? It's called the Stranger. And I won't get into why, but that's funny. Really good. The when they just are getting ready to start going out and stealing cars, it's very similar to the GT500 when he says lowrider Donnie lowrider, and then he just hits it, and the war song comes on. That's great.
Can we talk about that scene just for a second? Because what I really love is you look at the disparity in the reactions to it. The old crew has a reverence for it. Like this is a ritual. This is sacred. We do not.
Like they're going
mess
to church.
Yeah, this is our battle song. Maybe
you're not religious, but you still bow your head and shut the hell up.
Yeah, like okay, this is our. It's almost like WWE walkout music. Yeah, like this is this is your walkout song. And you show it the proper respect, and the guys that are part of the new crew are kind of looking around like, what is all this? Like, are the old people nuts? Like, what's going on here?
How's this getting you pumped up?
Yeah. It's and it's hard to listen. It's hard to hear the song Lowrider and not think about this particular scene for me. So
I can't anymore. It's only ever going to tie me to that for sure.
Absolutely.
So my last one is, it's like right all the way at the end of the film, where Sphinx, played by Vinnie Jones, he speaks. He goes the entire movie without saying a word. He doesn't even make a grunt. And he goes on this like very eloquent speech with like some really cool vocabulary. And very, very much, English accent to what he's saying. And everybody's like completely just flabbergasted by this. And Nick Cage is totally unaffected and just says, "Hey man, I thought you were from Long Beach." That's all he's got. Which I just thought was really cool. It's probably like the last, like joke of the movie, and it was good. That's what I got.
So you were mentioning how great it is to have low riders, and we were talking about how it's very hard to hear that song without thinking of Gone in 60 Seconds. Throughout our run here on the extended podcast universe, we've spent a lot of time talking about the music used in movies. We talked a lot about it with Goodfellas. We definitely talked a lot with the Big Lebowski as well. And Eric, it's something you've really enjoyed talking about. You've really paid a lot of attention and had some very great thoughts about it. So we've got a new segment we're going to debut with this episode called Eric's EPU Extended Playlist. Go! Because iconic all-time great movies, they don't just have great lines, great scenes, and great characters, but also great music. And music that definitely gets you very reminiscent of, when you hear that song, you think of that movie, or just the way that the song was used in the film really helps set the tone. Again, we talked about it a lot with Goodfellas and how masterfully it was used throughout that film. So, Eric, give us some highlights of how music is used and some of the songs used throughout this film.
Oh, wow. So, really just the intro. This is like probably one of my all-time favorite intros to any film. Some they just start with some type of scene, and then after that scene kind of wraps after like 3 to 5 minutes, they do like they roll the opening credits and some kind of opening title theme song. Other movies, they start with the song and the credits, and then they kind of lead into a scene. This one, they play that song, it's Flower by Moby. It's got such cool piano in the background, and then there's some strings that hit. It's such an awesome song by itself, but just the way that it's used, the imagery that they give you with those opening credits while it's playing, it makes it so it's like so serious and so chill at the same time. It's such a kick-ass song. And then obviously Lowrider is used wonderfully as well. And any kid, in the early 2000s who had a sound system in his vehicle, that song was available to be played at any point in time, I promise. There's a couple that are pretty hidden, I guess, that were really, really good, that you don't necessarily notice. Folsom Prison Blues, actually, by Johnny Cash, that's playing during the film. You don't actually pick up on it. And I've lost track of where that plays, but I think it was in the scene with Robert Duvall when he first shows up.
It's fairly early into the movie. I remember that. Yeah.
And then Rock Wilder, actually, I had no idea that this song was in this film. That's Method Man and Redman. It's actually like one of the greatest gangster rap songs ever. But that's playing when it's like one of the first scenes. It's when they're stealing the Porsches. They're when Kip's riding with the little black dude, and they're going to steal it. That's what's playing in his car. "Stop the Rock" by Apollo 440 is a really like upbeat, cool song that has been in a lot of shows and a lot of movies for scenes where a lot of kind of manic, crazy action stuff is happening, and it's really, really good. And then near the end, one of the greater Jane's Addiction songs, "Been Caught Stealing," that song plays over the sort of like the little barbecue that they're having at the end, and obviously, it makes sense for the
It's a perfect like title of a song to use for that scene.
And it's a good song too, and it not just is a good song and a perfect title, but that song fits the tone of, it's very lighthearted. Everybody's relaxed. Nobody's dead. Nobody's going to jail, and everything's solved. And it's lighthearted. It works. It really is. It's a cool movie. They do some good stuff with music, and so with this playlist though, I certainly added several songs that aren't on like the official soundtrack.
Oh, so let's go ahead and talk about this though.
Yeah.
So we've added not just a new segment called the Eric's EPU extended playlist. Eric has actually curated Spotify playlists for this movie. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Amazon Music, although we definitely recommend Spotify, because if you don't have if you're not a subscriber to Amazon Music, you're only going to get about 50% of the songs.
There's some, and maybe it's my fault. Like there's some, like ultra HD like versions of tracks that just sort of come up as like the top whenever I'm searching them.
Yep. But
so I'll look into that some more. But Spotify, I would say, is probably the easiest to find.
You're going to be safe.
The best functionality too.
So if you enjoyed the music of this film, if you enjoyed this film in general, we definitely think you'd like this. So what you do is you go into Spotify and you just hit a search for a playlist called MGTTM EPU. So just Matt Goes to the Movies Extended Podcast Universe. You just type in those initials. And Eric, what's the name of this playlist? So you type that in, and what have you called this playlist?
I think everybody has a pretty good idea. If you were going to name anything after this film, what are you going to go with? Eleanor.
It's Eleanor. So it's not just the best songs from this movie and the soundtrack and things like that, but it's also a lot of other songs that are going to fit in well. So similar artists, similar time frame, similar feel. It's pretty well curated, and I definitely first of all, if you're listening to things, you should be listening to every episode you can of Matt Goes to the Movies and the Basement Binge podcast run by our friend Harrison. Definitely listen to those. But for those times where you need music instead of conversation, then I highly recommend it. I've been rocking out to the EPU Eleanor playlist pretty much since you made it, like about a week or so ago. Every time I'm going anywhere, I got to caution you though, because if you start listening to this and you're running a little bit late for work, you're going to drive fast. Like you've got no choice. You're going to drive faster than you want to. I'm just going to throw that out there as a warning, but definitely a great playlist for working out. Yep. It's a great playlist for driving. It's a great playlist for working out. I highly recommend it for that when you're not listening to the other shows here on Matt Goes to the Movies or our friend Harrison show over on the Basement Binge. So Eric, not only did you create a playlist for this film, you've actually gone back and created playlists based on the other films that we've had a chance to review here on the EPU for Rob's reviews. So let's go one film back, and we had a chance to talk about The Big Lebowski. So what's the name of the playlist that people can search for The Big Lebowski?
Oh yeah, so I've actually does this count as retconning? Am I retconning right now? I've
Little bit.
retconned some playlist. Okay, so the Big Lebowski playlist, I think again, I'm trying to go with something like decently obvious, right? It makes sense. It's going to be White Russian.
Pretty easy to find. And what can people find on MGTTM EPU White Russian?
So again, I'm really my criteria for all of this, and this is going to apply to everything, past, present, and future. I sound like a jewelry store commercial, but it's going to be like the highlights of the official soundtrack plus anything that like was in the movie that maybe is not included on the OST. And then I'm also looking at other stuff by artists that are on there that's like really kick-ass, that makes sense and fits, or something that maybe fits the tone of the movie that wasn't included, like in terms of just the piece itself or the era that the movie was released or the era that the movie took place. But either way, it's all going to sort of make sense. So for White Russian, I guess one of my little Easter eggs is, I mentioned on the podcast that Flea, the bassist from Red Hot Chili Peppers, plays one of the Nihilists. So I threw a couple Chili Pepper songs in there, so that's why those are there.
Because those are just good songs.
Yeah, they're also awesome. And I did my best. So those Nihilists, they were part of a band called Autobahn, which was supposed to be kind of a German electro pop type of group. It was sort of based on Kraftwerk. So I really went out of my way. I spent an inordinate amount of time trying to find a decent enough Kraftwerk song that would fit. None of them did. They all suck. And believe me, I love techno. This is crap. They're just not good. So then I tried to find a suitable replacement, and it didn't work out at all. So you're going to find some CCR on there, some other stuff that's of the era. Bob Dylan, Booker T, and the MGs. That
Tumbling Tumbleweeds on there. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Gypsy Kings for sure. You have to have
Gypsy
that.
Kings cover of a Hotel California is so good. Elvis Costello, Santana's Oye Como Va's on there. Highly recommend that one if that's a good one to sit around at the house and listen to in the background. It's a relaxing, it's a chill playlist for sure.
Yep. So before that, we got a chance to talk about a movie we both absolutely love, Goodfellas. And again, it's not until like you actually have to pay attention to it or somebody points it out that you realize almost the entire film is scored. There's music playing under almost everything. And it's so well used. So, I think so if you had to tell listeners a little bit, first of all, what is the name of it and what's included?
So this one's going to be called Get Your Shine Box. That's, quote from one of our more favorite scenes. This is really, there's a lot of, it was tough for me to pick stuff outside of the official soundtrack because there was so much. Like there was so
well
much.
used. Yep.
And it is extremely well done, and they're all very good. So I mean, there's a lot of doo-wop here. There's a lot of blues and kind of almost some like Motown. But you're gonna hear Bobby Darin. You're gonna hear the Stones. You're gonna hear Cream. That "Jump Into the Fire" by Harry Nilsson is such an awesome song. Muddy Waters, the Crystals.
Layla.
There's a couple songs by the Crystals that were super good. Not only are they great, but they work really well where they put them.
Yep.
Dean Martin, the Layla. It actually that was a Clapton song, but it's performed by Derek and the Dominoes. Really good. Speaking of Clapton, there's "Sunshine of Your Love" by Cream. There's a Stone song in there. George Harrison. At the end, the Sid Vicious cover of "My Way." That's a great playlist too. I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm biased, but I actually am pretty.
Yeah. So there's a lot of older music on there. Yeah, there's a lot of older music on there, which isn't necessarily my jam, but I'll tell you, like, what I was listening to the Eleanor playlist a lot in the last couple of weeks before I had a chance to rewatch the movie. when you start listening to these playlists, it makes you want to rewatch that movie. I like desperate, like every time I would be driving around listening to, Crystal Method, I want to watch Gone in 60 Seconds. Like it just makes me want to do that. The same thing with White Russian and definitely when I was listening to earlier today, some of Get Your Shine Box. I pretty much always want to watch Goodfellas, so I can't really say that the soundtrack, the playlist made me want to watch Goodfellas more because I pretty much have like a baseline minimum of how much I just want to watch Goodfellas at any moment in time. So the very first film that you and I got to cover was a little film called Fight Club, and there's really only one possible name for a playlist based on Fight Club. Eric, tell the listeners what it is.
I Am Jack's playlist.
There you have it. What can you find on I Am Jack's playlist?
Okay, so just a little insider info. It's not really insider info. It's just, I guess, background. Not really a lot of commercial like music on Fight Club. Most of that was actually composed by a couple guys that go by the name Dust Brothers, the Dust Brothers, I should say. So that's like really what the official soundtrack is. It's a lot of stuff that was composed by them, and it's really good. And it was a bummer because I had to kind of only pick like a handful of those so that I could still put my own thumbprint on this. But really good stuff by them. The first song on there, Stealing Fat, it actually plays during the scene when they're stealing fat. But it is the same song during the intro. And I remember like watching it and thinking like, my God, it's such a panicky, anxiety inducing, like manic song. So that's that. It's all very much in the same vein. I'm really, really pretty happy with this, but there's some Prodigy on there. You're going to find some Deadmau5. So there's a lot of like some pretty heavy electronic stuff. And then just to speak to the tone of the film was very much, angsty, Gen X, hate for the man and the government. So there's going to be some grunge. There's going to be some angsty stuff. There's going to be some stuff that's like really cacophony, just harsh on the ears in a good way. So you've got some Nirvana. There's some Soundgarden. There's one of my favorite bands of all time, Stabbing Westward. There's a couple on there that are great. And it's not just because of the sound, but it's also
it fits the theme.
The content. Yeah. So like the one Stabbing Westward song is called Violent Mood Swings. And the other one is The Thing I Hate, where he talks about I won't become the thing I hate. I think, if you listen to the words, I feel like it fits the movie really well. And we finished with the Pixies. Yeah, the Pixies, Where's My Mind? That's like really the only legitimate like produced song with lyrics that was in the entire film. So
I'll tell you though,
what was be in there no matter what.
Yeah, what was really interesting to me, so I hadn't really listened to the full, like, the Dust Brothers version of these songs until you had started putting this together. And there's one in there that has Brad Pitt doing lines from his character. Now, there's some that are from the movie, but then there's a whole bunch more that were not featured in the movie, but it almost feels like a deleted scene as a song.
It's
and
kind of Easter eggy.
Very much so, and I highly recommend it. So listeners, like I said, you can find all of these things on Spotify just by searching MGTTM EPU, and then you either look for Eleanor, which is I love all of these, but I've been jamming to Eleanor for weeks now, just up and down. I don't skip a single song. You can search for White Russian, Get Your Shine Box, or I Am Jack's playlist. And then once you find one, and by the way, Matt's going to link all this in the show notes. So you'll be able to click on it right in the show notes, and it should take you right to this one. And you should be able to find the other ones pretty easily just by looking for, the creator. And enjoy. Like I said, we hope you enjoy this. It's just a fun way to interact with some of your favorite movies is to really get into the playlists that,
if you're
and Eric's done a great job, like I said, of curating this.
If you're a gamer, think of this as free downloadable content. How happy
it's free DLC
when a game studio puts out a new map and they're like, "Hey, this one is for a price of On the House."
Yeah,
but this
so
is
we're going to move.
Free. It's just for fun. Yeah. So I hope you guys like it. I'd love to hear some feedback if anybody wants to do that. But it is kind of a bummer with the Amazon thing. You have to click on the URL for my like actual Amazon Music profile to find my public playlist. There's not like a way to share them individually. It's kind of lame, but Spotify.
But Spotify's been a lot easier.
Said, it's super easy to find, and you can just search for them, and then you can, you're going to get every song too. Like even if because I don't have like a premium Spotify account, so if I can find it, then everybody can find it, and you should be good to go.
Yeah. So listeners, have some fun with that. Give us some feedback on anything you heard on this show or anything else here at Matt Goes to the Movies. You can hit the show up on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can find us there. You can certainly email the show, mgttmpodcast@gmail.com. is the easiest way to email the show. That's also linked in the show notes. So, if you like this episode, you want to hear more from Eric and I as part of the EPU, as we call it. Definitely let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're into the playlists, let us know. Is there something that you would have added? We'd love to hear that too. So, so we hope you guys enjoy that for when you're not listening to other shows here at Matt Goes to the Movies or The Basement Binge. Eric, we're going to move on to our next segment, which is called Rewatchability Rating and Pantheon Points. So when we choose a movie, we're choosing one that you kind of have to add different terms of measurement to. We can't just give it, on Matt Goes to the Movies, everything's given a rating out of 5 reels. And we watch good movies, we watch bad movies. Matt just made me recently watch On Stranger Tides, which is the 4th Pirates of the Caribbean movie, which if you haven't seen it, go ahead and just leave it that way. But, for the movies that you and I are choosing, just rating out of 5 reels just doesn't really work. So we have to come up with something different. So we give it a rewatchability rating. So a 5 is I would watch it start to finish every time, locked in. 4, I put it on and I play with my phone in between scenes I love. 3, background noise while doing housework. 2, it's a film I enjoy, but I don't know if I'm going to go out of my way to watch it again. And 1, it just doesn't hold up the way I remember it. So Eric, I'll let you go ahead and go first. Give us your rewatchability rating from your most recent viewing of Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh man, it's like it's at odds with itself, because there's some things that they don't hold up, and keep in mind, like this comes out, I'm fresh into like high school. I'm like 15, 16 years old here. And cars were a big deal too, because this was like Fast and Furious time period too. So like, it was really great. It was awesome. And again, like that was like the spectacular Hollywood stuff that was going on with this. That was the norm. It was what was expected. So there was some really cool stuff that I remember feeling like, wow, a lot. I felt wow all the time for this. And then as I get older and more cynical, those wow feelings kind of drift away. But there's other stuff that sort of improves. So, even though it's kind of like a rock'em sock'em robot battling back and forth and somebody's head's going to pop up, sometimes I'm going to feel like maybe it's in the lower 4s, and other times I'm going to feel like it's probably in the mid 4s. Because there are times when I'm just like, I'm over this. I don't need to watch the entire thing. But then there's other, like, I guess it just goes with the absence makes the heart grow fonder. If it's been a year since I've seen it, I'm watching it start to finish. I'm not leaving. I'm not moving. But it is on frequently. If you're, a live TV type of person and you're scrolling through and seeing stuff, it's great background watching. If you have some stuff to do, or you're laying in bed, you don't know what else to watch before you fall asleep, that's perfect for that too. So I guess a solid 4.35.
It's hard to disagree with much of anything you said. On my most recent rewatch, I paused the movie to get up to refill my glass, but that was it. I literally just watched it from start to finish, and I felt entertained. But a part of that too is I have not actually seen this movie in several years. I couldn't even tell you the last time I had seen it before. I watched it for this. So I did actually watch this start to finish, but I can't necessarily say that I would if I watched this again in a week or a month. So, in terms of the scale that we have, I think you're absolutely right in terms of, is this good background noise? 100%. This is phenomenal background noise, because the scenes that are fun are really fun. The
there's
scenes
cool
that
music,
are just
there's cool lines, and then
oh
if
yeah.
nothing else, you hear the cars revving and the tires screeching. Like that's always great to hear.
Yeah. So for me, I've got this as a 3.75 in terms of my rewatchability rating. It's probably something that on a future watch, I'll probably be multitasking. Like if there's an NBA game on that I'm kind of interested in, like I might have that on one device and I might put this on, on another device, maybe one's on my TV, one's on my tablet. And, when one's on commercial break, I watch Gone in 60 Seconds. And
So you'll
when
hear like
there's
tennis shoes squeaking instead of tires screeching.
yeah. And then when there's like 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, I'm switching back to the NBA, in terms of what I'm actually diverting my focus to.
The last 2 minutes of an NBA game last longer than this movie does. So
Yeah, pretty much. So that's kind of where I have it. So we're going to move into Pantheon points. And one of the things that we've kind of talked about in the past is so many of the movies that you feel like you love, it really makes it tough to just straight up rank them. And like if you ask me where does Gone in 60 Seconds rank in my overall pantheon of films that I love, is it top 20? Probably not. It'd be tough for me to say that. Is it top 50? I don't even know that I could say that necessarily. Maybe. So that's where like it becomes really challenging. So come up with, Eric, any grading scale you want as you think about this movie. To me, it's my favorite car movie. In terms of all the movies that have car action and things like that, it's absolutely, really? I like this better than any of the Fast and Furious movies. Unless you're going to give, oh, I do. I like this better than any of the Fast and Furious movies. Yeah. Now keep in mind, I'm a little bit behind. I haven't seen all of them. But of the ones I've seen,
you're going to tell me is that there's like always some kind of scene after the credits in Marvel movies.
Oh yes, there is, by the way. And yeah, so I actually sat through on my most recent rewatch just to make sure that this is what the MCU has done to me. I sit all the way through the credits of every movie I watch now, just in case there's an end credit scene, because freaking Feige and company have done that to me.
Yeah, but that's
now I do that.
That really started with like comedy movies back in the day, because they would put like a gag reel and outtakes after the credits where you could sit there and watch, and it would be really, really funny.
It's not just the MCU, but now you kind of expect that with every movie. Pixar's doing it. Like everybody's doing it now.
It's kind of like
Disney's doing
downloadable content.
Yeah, it's almost like getting an awesome playlist from your favorite podcast. Like how cool is that? Oh, look at that! I brought it full circle. So, in terms of car movies, yeah, this is definitely going to be. I don't know. I'm gonna maybe saying it's my favorite is probably too much, because I don't know if I've thought about it enough to do that. I'm gonna say it's easily my top 3 car movies.
Death Race 3000 that you're forgetting. Obviously.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's good too. So in terms of car movies, in terms of heist movies, it's in my top 10 for heist movies. It's definitely in my top 3 Nick Cage movies. And I like a lot of Nick Cage movies, especially from this time frame.
I think that's probably putting it right where it belongs, right? It's on the podium.
Yeah. So it's on the podium. I don't know if it's gold, silver, or bronze, but it definitely is. It's winning a medal. So that's as I look at Pantheon again, you can't just simply assign a grading scale to some of these movies that you just absolutely love, especially when we're talking about a movie. Eric, we started the show off by saying how much the critics trash this movie, but audiences seem to love it. And you don't really have to have reasons for it. So I gave you kind of several pantheons that I placed this in for myself. How about you? Where do you sort of, how do you classify this movie in your head?
So I try not to think about this stuff while I'm watching it, or while I'm taking notes, or while I'm doing any prep work at all. I try to keep it as spontaneous as possible, because I want it to be, I feel like my first instinct is correct. I don't want to overthink it. So while you were introducing the segment, my first thought was not top 10, not top 20, probably top 50. Like in terms of just in general, top 50 films that I've seen. I think that's probably, I'm comfortable putting it there. I think that you're kind of giving it a lot of credit for would you say top 10 heist movies? That's significant, because I mean, and of course I could make a case for like the Mighty Ducks being a heist movie, but I don't think that I would put it in the top 10. I mean, it would be really close. It would be probably, it might not be in the teens, but I would be reticent to say top 10. I mean, it is impressive because they don't even start stealing until the 12-hour mark. So we're talking about 50 cars in 12 hours. That is super duper impressive. But like, and maybe we'll talk about these one day, but like the Ocean's 11 movie, like in the first Mission Impossible, like those are some pretty heisty heists, and those are old too, and there's been a lot of other ones since then. So I don't know about top 10 for heists, but I don't even know about top 3 for Nick Cage. I could agree with you. I could sit and be your co-counsel making that argument and litigating that, but I could also be on the other side and make an argument for top 5 for Nick Cage movies. So,
yeah.
But I mean, I think we're in the same ballpark for sure.
Yeah, because I think it comes down to, do you have which one are you kicking out for Nick Cage? If we're going to just look at the pantheon of Nick Cage movies, what do you kick out?
Does John Travolta turn you off? So like there goes Face Off. Do you feel like Christian Slater is underappreciated? Okay, there's Broken Arrow. Is John Malkovich one of your favorites because he should be? Okay, Con Air moves up a little bit. So
yeah, so Con Air and The Rock are probably my other two. In terms of Nick Cage movies. Definitely. Yeah, like I it's hard for me to think that Face Off would be better to me than this movie. I love Face Off, but I don't know that I love it more than this. So I think, for me, right. So in terms of Nick Cage movies, I think it's got to be top 3. So any other pantheons that you think you want to discuss for this particular film?
I think you nailed it, and I was happy that you did that because I could kind of just come up with stuff on the fly there, and it worked. So good.
Well, thank you. So listeners, this has been our review for Gone in 60 Seconds. We're really glad that you decided to check this show out. Please be sure to subscribe to Matt Goes to the Movies everywhere you get your podcasts, pretty much everywhere. Make sure to leave a review on Podchaser. Podchaser is a really convenient way to sort of keep all of the reviews kind of in one place. You can give it a star rating. If it's 5 stars, we appreciate it. If it's 1 star, hey, we're sorry that you didn't like it as much. We certainly have fun doing this, but anything helps because it lets other listeners know that this is a show worth checking out. You can leave an actual comment as well. We'd certainly appreciate that. Definitely let us know if you like the playlists, if that's been fun for you, if that's been a great way for you to continue to sort of engage with the movie, even if you're not actually watching a movie. So please make sure you do all of those things. Email the show, mgttmpodcast@gmail.com, and make sure you check out all the episodes that have coming up. Matt and I just completed with our friend Harrison from the Basement Binge. We did a run of all 5 movies of the Pirates of the Caribbean series. And our opinions kind of were a little bit all over the place in terms of our rankings. So we did power rank those. We gave each film its own episode to review. Harrison bugged out on us for the 4th one and I don't blame him because it's terrible. So you can check out all of those. Matt and I have a lot of plans for the month of October. Of course, it's spooky season. People are definitely into horror films and watching scary movies this time of year. Matt's got some great stuff, solo episodes already on the channel from other previous years. So definitely check that out. He's got stuff on Halloween. He's got stuff on Scream. He's got some other ones in there as well. But we're planning on doing this coming week. We're going to record 28 Days Later, which is my favorite zombie movie. Eric, I know you like that too. So make sure you download that. That is, oh my God, it's without a doubt my favorite zombie movie. So I'm just giving it Pantheon rating right there. Then we're going to hit 28 Weeks Later. We're going to do both of those films, by the way, are streaming on HBO Max. So if you want to watch them in advance before we get to the review, so that when we get it published, you can listen to it and haven't seen it recently. They're on HBO right now. Dawn of the Dead is another one that we're going to do. We're going to look at the Zack Snyder remake, and then we're going to do Army of the Dead, which was Zack Snyder's most recent film that hit Netflix. So again, if you want to be able to kind of watch these with us and be ready to go when the episodes publish, Harrison, our friend over at the Basement Binge, his show's available all the same places that Matt Goes to the Movies is available. Just did a complete binge of the Daniel Craig James Bond series, which have been fantastic. And I know he just went and saw the most recent film. He really enjoyed it. I haven't gotten a chance to download those shows and listen to them yet, but I always enjoy hearing Harrison break things down. He really has a great way of going in depth on certain things and giving he does a lot of research, which I respect because I know how much time that takes. And I'm really interested to download those episodes myself and get into those. So, but yeah, so that's what's coming up on Matt Goes to the Movies. That's what's coming up over on the Basement Binge. And we certainly appreciate you checking us out. Eric, any final thoughts on Gone in 60 Seconds before we sign off?
Yo, so check out my new move. I call it the stranger. What I do is I sit on my hand for like 15, 20 minutes until it goes numb. No feeling at all. And then I rub one out.
There we go. We're going to end on that. Thanks for listening.